Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the AppDNA SDK usage session. So today I'm going to walk you through some of the things that you'll be able to do using the AppDNA SDK, which is already in the market. So let's begin by discussing why should I care. If you care about applications, you care about AppDNA. AppDNA is a product that effectively statically assesses other applications. So what does that mean? It means that you don't have to install an app, run the app to try and figure out how it will work in a new environment. If you're doing a big transformation, let's say you're moving from Windows XP to Windows 7, that's what we're traditionally known for. Or if you're moving to AppV, for example, AppDNA can answer all of those questions for you. And it does that by interrogating the internals of applications. So it extracts things like the PE header, the internal manifests, any external manifests that may exist, the contents of certain config files, and obviously the installer instructions, and stores all of that in a database. So the basic process is divided into three phases. The first one is the import or automate phase, which is really about loading that application DNA into the database. That's really where we crack open the installers and extract all of the metadata. The next phase is the analyze or assessment phase. This is where that raw data is transformed into reports. And that is done using algorithms that we've developed, things that look for certain types of behavior trait that applications will have. And then obviously the final part is the reporting that AppDNA produces. Now this extends from very high-level reporting, which is designed for program managers, right down to exceptionally detailed reporting, which is for people responsible for either fixing an application. It could be an in-house engineer or a third-party remediator. You can also perform some actions with some of these things, and the reports will detail that. So, show me AppDNA quickly. I don't have the time to walk you through an extended AppDNA demo, but I'm going to show you what the basic interface looks like. So, AppDNA is a client-server application. As I said, the main phases are import, if I can find my mouse. So this is where you can import applications. Direct import is for Windows installer-based applications because we can break them open. It's a transparent format. If you have legacy setup.exes or in-house developed formats, you have to go through an install capture process, which uses virtual machine technology. Once you've done that, you can analyze the applications, pick which ones, and the net impact is that you get a set of different reports. So we have about 13 different reports. I've only turned on Windows 7, AppV, and 64-bit for the purposes of this demo, just to speed it up a bit. And you can see that some of the reports can be very high level. So just give me a red, amber, green status for a given application. And then you can start drilling down and going, okay, why would Dameware NT utilities not be suitable? And we found some 32-bit drivers in this instance, and additional 32-bit drivers. So in a nutshell, that is what the AppDNA product does. So what can we do with the SDK? So let's establish some of the basics first. The SDK is built on C#. You're able to import applications, assess, and export report data. Now you can either do this in MHT format, which is a transferable format, or you can do it in a raw format, which is basically getting access to the red, amber, green status or specific algorithm triggers. One of the things in the first version of this API that's been delivered is that the main configuration still needs to be done in the product. So you do still need to install the UI just to configure things like the virtual machines and which reports you'd like on or off. The great thing is it ships with the product. It's available today in version 7 or later of the AppDNA product. We've included a sample project in it which exercises most, if not all, of the API features that are available today. It's simple and easy to use. When I set the goal to my engineering teams to create an API, one of the mandates was that a junior programmer should be able to pick it up and understand it and use it. It also should not produce reams and reams of needless code. We've done some smart things like dynamic object updating. So basically, we track instances of different objects. Let's say you've got applications behind the scenes so that you don't have to worry about keeping the synchronization in place. And we believe in it so much that all of the new AppDNA features are actually built on top of our own API. So our own UI uses the API, not for legacy features, but for anything new. So let's have a look at some examples. This is a very common use case that I get from a lot of enterprise customers. They love the AppDNA technology, love the assessment it can do for a given scenario, whether it's Windows 7 64-bit AppV, but would like to integrate the AppDNA data into their intranet so that there's no need to have customers install the AppDNA client. So the example code that would support this use case is up here. I'm not going to go through it line by line. The point here is that in fewer than 30 lines of code, you're able to import an application, assess it, which is over here, and do the report export, which is over here. One line of code. So what does this look like in practice? Well, let's switch to the sample application. This is available on the Citrix Developer Network as one of the samples. And in order to run this, we need to call a few command line parameters. So you can see them here. Import, analyze, export is a compiled version of the sample available on the developer network. Put in your username and your super secure password, a path to an installer. In this instance, it's BBC Ticker, MSI, and then an output path. So ctemp myreports.mht. Let's run that. So as you can see from the sample, the first thing it's going to do is import this. Because it's an MSI, there's no need to use a virtual machine. The AppDNA product will just break it open, start extracting the DNA, load it into the database, and now you can see it's moving on to the analysis phase. This is where the algorithms are run, and it's busy reporting back the different algorithms for Windows 7. This is the phase at which the actual report data is produced. Now this will probably run for another 15 seconds. At this stage, it's starting to save the reports to the relevant report data tables. And right at the end, it is going to do an export in MHT format, which is a portable HTML format of the assessment level report. So it should come up in a moment. It's come up on the second screen, so let me drag it across. And there we have the AppDNA report. In fewer than 30 lines of code, you could integrate this into your intranet. So let's go back to the presentation. So the second use case I'd like to discuss today is another one that very often comes up from our enterprise customers. When they're doing large-scale transformations. Now, I mean, historically, AppDNA are known for application compatibility analysis, but to be quite honest, we do a lot more than that. It could be a migration to using AppV. It could be that you're adopting Zen Desktop or Zen App, and you'd like to know the smoothest, most seamless way to get your applications onto that new platform. But before you start, you'd like to understand the cost of doing this, both in terms of time and dollars. And using AppDNA, once again, you could create some very complex logic tailored to your environment. So what does the code look like again? And once again, I'm not going to walk you through each line of code. This is slightly different. It's assuming that you've already imported and analyzed, because I don't want to repeat the phases we saw in the previous demo. All it does is it connects, it gets the Windows 7 report, and then starts looping over the results and doing specific things. Don't worry too much about the details, but it's doing things like saying, if the red, amber, green status for the application is red, add $1,000 onto the cost of migration. If it's amber, $250. And in fact, if we've got a GINA issue, we're going to do some special handling, because we can't migrate GINA. It just doesn't work on modern platforms. So once again, let's have a demo. Now this is called Multicost. It's another one of the developer network samples. This one's slightly different. Multicost analysis, username, password, and a path to the output HTML. The demo itself that's been loaded into the developer network actually produces the HTML you'll see. This should happen very quickly because we're not importing or analyzing, which are those costly phases. And you can see here that we have a list of the applications that were in our portfolio, and the most expensive app for us is going to be something called StyleWriter. Very old version of it, if there are any StyleWriter people here. It's going to cost us $2,000 because it has some red issues. And in fact, there's an application called iPass Connect, which triggered that GINA algorithm, which requires redevelopment. Now, this is just our take on how to cost things, but you could create whatever logic suits your environment or your enterprise. So let's switch back to the demo. So there are a few other sample use cases. You can convert a whole folder of installers to AppV packages. This is part of the AppDNA technology. It's some of the automation it offers today. We use the Microsoft command line sequencer in doing the AppV packaging, so there's nothing proprietary there. Monitor a folder and assess applications that are dropped in. This is another use case that is very often requested. You know what? I want to have a folder that my customers can just drop applications in. We pick it up, we assess it, and we email the results to a third party. One of the other things we introduced in version 7 is something called application attributes. And application attributes allow you to associate your own data with AppDNA applications. So what could that be? Things like license cost, business unit owner, application owner, things like that that AppDNA would not know by looking at the internals of an app, you can associate via the API. You can create these attributes, you can update them, you can completely manage them using the API. You could perform certain actions, I mean not via our API, but using standard email, FTP file copy. You could say, if this algorithm triggers, copy the application onto this share for a third party. It could be IBM or HP or whoever to remediate the app. If it triggers a security algorithm, fire it off to the security department within our enterprise. And then you can feed your pet while you're at Synergy using the API. One of these isn't true. I'll let you figure it out. So the next obvious question is, can I get it? Go to citrix.com/try it and then select the AppDNA product. You can download a 5-app trial. This will allow, the SDK is part of it. You can play around with the samples. If you're a Platinum customer, it's included in Zen Desktop or Zen App Platinum. And we're AppDNA booth number 9 here in the Expo Hall. For more details on the samples that you saw today, there are 5 samples loaded into the Citrix Developer Network. I encourage you to go there and have a look at the AppDNA product, as well as some of the other ones there. And please complete our survey at citrix.com/go SDK doc survey. Thank you all.